What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. It has been a minute, but I am back off of my little hiatus for content creation, and we're gonna just hop in, starting off a little small. As you can see on the screen, we got a tier list, and that tier list is going to be for good old Masterduel. I have Masterduel open in the background just in case we need to talk about some specific things, but we're gonna be hopping in. We're gonna be doing a quick tier list, just to like ease my way into it. I love doing tier lists anyway. There are going to be some really big changes here to the channel. I'm going to be doing a channel update very, very soon here. I'll let you guys know like direction of the channel and things that I'm going to be doing and things that I'm going to be stopping. Like there's going to be things that you probably won't see on the channel that I used to do a ton, and some new things that will be coming out, old things returning, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. So if you guys have been around and you have been waiting for my return, I appreciate you guys, and let's just go ahead. We're gonna kick it off. We're gonna start into this. So this is a meta tier list for Yu-Gi-Oh! Masterduel. This should be just about everything that I could think of that has any form of prominence, and just like some fun pieces here as well. We have 5 tiers. We have best decks, SA, for fun, and just don't. These are just like awful decks that, I mean, like, you're going to build just because like you want to build it, but just don't. Just don't. For fun, they're exceptional. They're exceptional decks at having a good time, but not really the best decks to be grinding. And then anything A and up. I would probably put like Rogue tier technically, but like anything A and up, these are actually relatively solid decks that you can find a lot of success with when going into the ranked climb, or even like the duels cups and things like that. So we're just gonna start off with top left, bottom right. That's how we do these tier lists, baby. Adamantipator, I'm gonna go ahead and put up into A. I think Adamantipator is still really strong. Even with the loss of Block Dragon, you still have some really good tools, and you can set up some pretty strong boards. I think Block Dragon hit is kind of what puts it so low. If we still had Block Dragon, I'd probably have it up here, but we're gonna keep Adamantipator over in the A tier because you can still do some. None of these tiers are going to be ordered, by the way. I just want to put that out there. We'll just make sure that's very well known. Blue Eyes. I attempted to make a Blue Eyes list, and I had literally no rares and commons. It was all SRs and URs. Not by choice either. Like I needed all those. You needed all those cards. Like those are all like staple Blue Eyes cards. Yeah, they don't touch this deck. Blue Eyes is going to be a lot of people's big favorites, and like I'm always going to tell people, make sure you build your favorite decks and things like that. But this isn't going to be a deck that you're specifically making for the ranked grind. If you need a ranked grind deck, this is not the deck that you're going to be making. It's going to be something that you're going to have a little bit of fun with your friends, things like that. Outside of that, Branded. I still think Branded is relatively solid, but it's definitely taken a huge hit thanks to Branded Fusion being shot. I think Branded is more of an engine now. You're not going to see like a pure branded deck, pure Despia deck anymore. I think it's mostly just going to be engine just to kind of toss into the deck. To like exemplify any other deck, like maybe like something like Dragon Mage or things like that. Yeah, I don't think Brandon's going to be played pure anymore, but even as a pure list, it's still strong. You just got to make sure that you're playing around the fact that like you lose to Ash Blossom if they hit your Branded Fusion. You only have that one now, so that's something to keep in mind. I still think Brandon is strong. Dark Magician is another just don't. You're not going to be making this deck for this specific grind. I do think Dark Magician is in a better place than Blue Eyes at the moment, but outside of that, like it's still a deck that just gets hard slapped, hard countered in a lot of different ways. This is just a deck you're going to be making because you love Dark Magician and you want to play with your friends and things like that. Orchist, you don't really see it too much, but I know you could do some things. Like there's like different builds with just pure, and then like the lore specific like Mech Knights and things like that. Outside of that, I don't know too much on Orchis, so I'm gonna put it in just for fun, just like I don't know, like because I don't really know too much about it, and I want to like give a quick differentiation between these two categories. Decks that get put here are still decks that you can make for the ranked grind that you'll just enjoy, like overall. But like you're going into it expecting that you're going to be struggling. These decks down here they're just a struggle in of itself altogether. Like you know you're going in there, you know you're going to be working 20 times harder than your opponent just to inevitably break or lose. Like there's a clear difference between. So yeah, Orcust, I don't really know too much about. I think yeah, for fun is a great place for it. Dinomorphia, I'm going to. It's weird that I'm putting Dinomorphia in just for fun, but like that's kind of where it needs to go. You know, like it's not. I don't think Dinomorphia is A or up. I mean, you can make the argument for A, but I just don't see it anymore. Like, especially in the hands of a right player who kind of and who really knows how to tackle specific scenarios. And considering that Runic is still around, like not as much, but Runic is still around, and we have a lot of really prominent removals nowadays. Like, I don't think this deck is as good as it once was. Maybe we could put it here. You don't see it too much. It kind of just gets stopped if it really hard. Like, it's one of those decks where it's just like, if they stop your game plan at all, you just die. Like, you have no backup, you have nothing. But if you can get your game plan running, it's very powerful. Like, but I don't like. I think A is a perfect spot for it. I can't justify putting it any higher. Weather Painters, I know next to nothing about this archetype, but like, like everyone you ask about it, they're just gonna say just don't. It's not worth it. And I think, yeah, I think that's a good place. Ishizu, we have nothing left of Ishizu. I don't even know why this is here. Yeah, Ishizu, like there's only 2 cards left in the archetype, and then you're not gonna be running Gravekeeper. No one ran Gravekeeper's Trap anyway, so like there's no point. Like, you only have the shufflers back. You don't have the millers anymore. There's almost no point in making the engine at all. Like, the shufflers just don't do it. They only have their specific niche you right now. So like most of the time you're just gonna dinos. Generic dinos I still have faith in. I can't justify putting it any higher because it's primarily an OTK deck with like decent first boards that it can make. But outside of that, it's, you know, outside of first turn, it's okay. I think it's very much better, a very better going second deck, and even still, you got to play out of your damn mind in order to like get through your opponent's board, because like there's not a lot of like, this deck is very honest. Like, there's not a lot of cheap shit you do. You just work your way up to making some really beefy monsters that beat your opponent over the head, and you got to find a way to get to that while playing through your opponent's board, whatever the hell they set up. So it's consistent. I think it's still pretty good. I just can't justify putting it any higher. Dogmatica is kind of the same thing. One of those decks where like if your opponent knows how to stop it, you just kind of halt, and you don't really have much of a ways to recover. They have a lot of disruption, and like they're really like, yeah, you can't touch your extra deck, dude. That's mine. Get out of here. So it's like, once you get this deck going, it's really scary. But again, it just kind of falls into the same Dinomorphia. It's just like you shut the deck down, you stop the deck. It doesn't really have a backup plan. It doesn't really have a game plan too. So, Dragon Maid, I'm going to put it in for fun. I think Dragon Maid is still solid, especially with different engines put into it. Like, for example, Branded. I think it works really well with Branded. Still, it's a solid deck, but very honest. You know, like, their main gimmick is to get Shio out and just kind of really play out of their minds to keep Shio out the board, you know, with their Omni Negate. But outside of that, it's just a fun deck. You're slapping some dragons down on the board, popping them back in your hand. It's still pretty good. Like, it's overall like solid. It's just really power craft is pretty much what I'm trying to. Trap Tricks is another A tier deck. Really solid, very annoying. But again, just one of those decks where it's like, if your opponent knows the game plan, they know exactly what to stop. You're kind of, you know, you're kind of sifting and sorting through your cards, trying to figure out what you can do, and your opponent's just kind of already beating you over the head. So, a solid deck. I can't justify putting it any higher. Same thing with Exo Sisters. We have a lot of A tiers. Again, if your opponent knows how to stop it, like in the hands of a smart player, like you got to play out of your mind to get through whatever your opponent possibly set up. Because if they know what to stop, you're just kind of like dead in the water. You're not really doing anything. A strong deck once it gets going, like that's pretty much like the thing with these decks here. Strong decks once they get going, but it's just like you gotta play like crazy to make sure your opponent doesn't stop your gameplay, which is that's pretty common to do nowadays, especially with the really cream of the crop top meta. Flu, I still think, even with all the hits, all the nerfs, I still think Flu is really strong, and we're gonna go over to Masterduel for this. Oh, hello, Masterduel. What are you doing? We're gonna go over to Masterduel for this because there is a card. Ignore this deck list, but we're not gonna talk. Fluonaries and Snell. Once per turn, while you control this tribute summoned card, you can conduct up to 3 normal summon / sets this turn. Just 1. It's very strong for this deck's gimmick, you know. While this tribute summon card is in the monster zone, if your opponent attacks a defense position monster, if your monster attacks a defense position, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. Once per turn, per opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand, change all special summon monsters in the face down defense position. Now, we all know that Book of Moon right now is extraordinarily popular because of things like Arise Heart, things like Noir. Now, what Fluonaries has access to with Snell is not only a really easy card to get out. This card is very easy for Flu to get out. Very easy. They now have access to basically a full board Book of Moon, and Flu has access to doing things to bait out the Noir to make them go down to under 5 materials, so Noir is now affected. So this thing is an effective, I'm not going to say counter, it is an effective option for Kashtira and Pearly, 2 of the top decks in the game at the moment. Not only that, Flu is still just really good. You still have M-Pen, which is easily searchable. You only need the 1 M-Pen. M-Pen is still very strong, and it's a very consistent deck that has access to all the pots. This is going to get hit to 1. All the pots in just really good, consistent cards. Yes, Flu has been shot to all hell and back, but this deck is still good. It still lives. It still somehow survives. Again, ignore this deck list. Don't look at it. So I think that absolutely Flu is much better than it's given credit for. I think Flu is still a very strong deck. Definitely not like the cream of the crop that it once was, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on. Sprite. Now, pure Sprite is all but dead. Pure Sprite, like you only got the 2 blue now. You only have the 1 jet. Like all the Nimble package has been shot to hell. The Frog package has been shot to hell. Pure Sprite is pretty much all but dead. But Sprite in other decks, like Fur Hire, it's kind of why I don't have Fur Hire. I was thinking about adding it, but like you're gonna be playing Fur Hire with Sprite and Runic. Which even though Runic is still right here, I'm still gonna put Sprite, like Runic Fur Hire Sprite in particular is definitely one of the best decks. It's extremely consistent. It gets up multiple negates. It gets up multiple interactions. It gets up multiple interruptions. Like, this deck is insane, and it is extraordinarily consistent and very hard to deal with. Like, there is never a break in that deck, ever. This thing is really powerful. It's used by plenty of people. Distant Coder is like the biggest advocate of this deck, and has seen lots of results with this deck. It's very strong. I think it is definitely one of the best decks in the entire game. Pure Sprite would be down here. Pure Sprite would be down here. But Runic for Hire Sprite is like cream of the crop. Labyrinth is another cream of the crop deck. It's just stupid. I hate this deck so much. I hate how good it is for just almost nothing. Just almost nothing. You set 2 cards and then like, yeah, I have full board. You can't do anything. Haha, funny. I'm funny. I don't like Labyrinth for what it does. I despise Labyrinth for how easy it is to play, you know? And that's kind of where my hatred for Cash comes in. It's just you special summon Fenrir and you basically win. Outside of that, though, it's one of the best decks in the entire game. It's super consistent. There's almost never a brick with Labyrinth unless you just draw into all your hand traps, and that's just unfortunate. It happens with every deck. Very strong deck. There's not much else I need to say about that. Marine Cess. Now, Marine Cess is, this is a hot take. No, I'm not going to be hot. We're not going to be spicy right now. Right now, we're not going to be spicy. Marine's Nest is really solid. It's still a very strong deck. It dies to max C because of how many special summons it does. But, like, outside of that, like, you almost just can't stop this deck. They have so many plays. They do so many things. Just a bunch of things. So many things. Marine's Nest is really good in the end opponent towers that could just kind of like shoo away whatever your opponent's doing. They really don't care whatever the hell your opponent's doing. It's a strong deck. Marine's Nest is very strong. I still, to this day, have not found a way to prominently play against the deck. It's just insane. Math Mech, I still think is really strong. I still think it's one of the better decks in the game. It's definitely gotten power crept. Otherwise, it would be up here. But I still think this deck is really good. It has a lot of answers for a lot of things. It can make a lot of great things. Access code combo. It's got its own unique gimmick and things like that. Its own cards, Appalachian, whatever the hell that card's name is. Excuse me as I take a sip of my drink. Yeah, Math Mech, really strong, very good card, very good deck. Eldritch. Again, ironically, you know what? Pure Eldritch, just Eldritch. We're gonna put in just Dome. You know, I don't have a zombies category, so what we're gonna do? Pure Eldritch is just Dome. Zombies, though, zombies is definitely pure. This is very consistent. Does a lot of great things. There are so many cards that you will see in your opening hand. Zombies, it's because it's just a pile of cards. You know. So, like, you have so many things in zombies that just kind of activate your gimmicks and things like that. Activate your mills, get the things, Unizombie, Banshee, Ball Drake, whatever the hell that guy's name is. You know what I'm talking about. Really strong, you know. Again, I will say Zombies differentiates, Marine's Nest and Zombies differentiate from the rest of the decks because, like, it's a tough deck to stop, you know. But it's still a deck that can be stopped, and the board that they make at the end isn't as strong as some of these decks up here. There are a lot of answers for some of the a lot of the decks up here have answers for what zombies can even put out. But even still, at the end of the day, it's a great deck to just sit down and play heroes. I'm gonna put heroes in A tier. I still think this deck is really good. Dark Law is dumb. Phoenix Enforcer is dumb. Malicious Bane, sleeper card. Absolute Zero to Acid combo, really strong. There's a lot of things that this deck does, and it does it very well. And again, like these three decks here, it has multiple different answers for potential stops and negates and things like that. It can play through interruption. It's a very solid deck. But again, one of the biggest problems with heroes is just like the board that it sets up is so nitpicky and specific that it could just get kind of shot by these decks up here. And you still need like the absolute most perfect hand in the world to make like Dark Law, Malicious Bane, Absolute Zero on board with Mass Change set and things like that. You know, the most optimal hero board is pretty hard to get to. A lot of the times because it's very super hand specific, but you can still make proficient boards. Like you could still make Dark Law with Sunrise in Absolute Zero. You could still make Dark Law and just Bane. You can still, you're gonna make Dark Law, DPE, Dark Law. He's the bread and butter of the deck. He's a floodgate. Essentially, he's still a very good floodgate. But again, just power crept. You know, very power crept. Punk. Punk is mostly an engine, but even still, pure Punk is still pretty good. Punk as an engine is still just good. Punk is just good. It's very consistent. It enables a lot of decks to just do a lot of great things. Punk is just good. There's not a singular downside to putting Punk in a lot of decks. There's not a singular downside to playing Punk. You're going to be setting up really good boards. Pep is insane. As a card, this is a very strong deck. This is a very strong engine. Goes in a lot of decks. Plunder Patrol. My favorite and my best deck is only in S tier right now, specifically for the cash matchup. If cash tier didn't exist at the moment, if cash tier wasn't at max power, it would still just be here. Plunder Patrol effectively shuts down a cash player's first turn board very well, because it put with access to Jordan now, you can set up a token. on their side of the field, so they cannot special summon their Fenrir. Now, a Kashtira could still play, a Cash player could still play the game, even with that token on board, but most of the time, you're going to have access to something that could shut down whatever else they can. It is an effective counter, not a hard counter, an effective one. So Plunder Patrol is only this high for its effectiveness against Kashtira. Outside of that, it would still be an A tier, even if Cash didn't exist at full power. Still a good deck. It's very honest. It plays very well. It's very consistent. There's a lot of things that you could do. You could play Pure Plunder. You could play Plunder Adventure. You could play Plunder Cash. You could play Plunder with a lot of things, and it would still work out very well. Speaking of Kashtira, let's just put it out there. Obviously, it's one of the better decks in the game. Rise Heart is stupid strong, very consistent, very good. One card combos all over the place. One of the better decks. I've seen a lot of people actually not believe it's one of the best decks in the game right now, and I just kind of don't see that. I think it just kind of has everything that you need in a deck. Very strong, very easy to play, very simple to do. Runic is mostly an engine nowadays, but I still think it's very strong. The cards are insane. They have answers, they have interruptions, they have interactions with just about everything that you can do. The deck out option is still relatively strong, not for specifically getting a full deck out, but specifically for the fact of just trying to mill your opponent's key cards. It's definitely gotten power crept, but I still think Runic is in a great place. I forget the name of this archetype right here. Spiral, I believe it was. It's a strong deck. I know exactly what deck it is. I'm pretty sure it's Spiral. A strong deck. It cheats. This is the cheating man's deck. Like you know what your opponent's going to be playing next, and you abuse that. It's very fun. But it could set up some really crazy shit. Like the deck's actually really solid. I don't think I've ever seen it anywhere on the meta, but I believe in what it can do. I think it's a pretty strong deck. I think it's just prone to bricking. So I mean, I guess we could put it here. I don't know too much. I don't know enough about it to kind of justify its strength, but from what I've seen of it, it is actually relatively strong. I get maybe one of you guys down below can let me know just how strong this card is. But yeah, very fun, very very cool archetype. I like it a lot. I wish I didn't even have to rank this deck. I hate this deck so much. It's just boring. But Sky Striker, insanely power crept. If you like Sky Striker, you like Sky Striker. You're in it for the long haul. It's just super power crept. It doesn't do a whole lot. It sets up. It takes a 10-minute combo just to put 1,500 damage on the board to go, okay, pass. I'm gonna steal your card. You can't do anything. So on and so forth. It's just annoying to play against. But I'm only gonna put it in for fun because if you like Sky Striker, you like Sky Striker. It's fun to you, and it doesn't deserve to go any higher because of how little it is. Sword Soul. A lot of people still think that, a lot of people think that Sword Soul has been insanely power crept, and it's not good anymore. That is very true. For one of those things, it's still good, but very power crept. Because the thing with Sword Soul is it is consistent. It does what it's meant to do, And with an optimal Sword Soul hand, you can get Barone, Changying, and Shishao, and that's kind of hard to deal with. That's still a really strong board. It's really only power crept because of the options that people had to turn to in order to tap Hurley and Kashtira. Because it loses to Kaiju, a lot of things, everything loses to Kaijus, but Kaiju's kind of just really hurt this deck. Book of Moon is annoying because people could just slap down Book of Moon. You're forced to negate it with Barone, otherwise you can't use your negate at all because they're just gonna flip it face down, and then they could just play the game. The deck is still really strong in the hands of a great player, a very good player. Sword Soul can still excel. Sword Soul can still get you to master. It's still a very strong deck. Tier Elements. I'm still going to say Tier Elements is. This deck has been torn apart, but I still believe in it. I still think the deck is strong. But it lost the Ishizu. It lost a lot of things. Yeah, I think it goes there. Like, it lost a lot of things. Like, it lost the Ishizu engine. It lost a lot of its own cards. Like, a lot of its cards got hit to 1. Like, it still makes really strong boards, but again, it's now just like branded, where it's like if they know what to hit, you kind of lose that option. Like, what's the name of the card? Merly. You hit the Merly that's at 1. Like, what do you do from there? You know, like, that's just the unfortunate thing. But like, if you could cook with Tearlaments and get up their boards and everything like that, it's still an extraordinarily powerful deck. But it's just kind of in the branded situation where it's just been hit enough to, if your opponent knows how to stop it, they're gonna stop it, and there's not much you can do. Rika. Now, this is the fun thing. You don't see this deck. But whenever you do see this deck, you're like, damn, I don't know what to do. Because this deck is very strong. I believe in this deck. I still thoroughly believe in this deck. I think it's really powerful. A very sleeper. It's a sleeper deck, you know, like, not a lot of people are going to know what to do about it. Go into ranked, and you can just kind of trample all over your opponent with all the attributing effects that they do. It's very strong. I believe in it. I believe in its strength. I think it deserves to be up here. Very strong. This is Live Twins. I'm pretty sure, because I recognize that art. It's just a for fun deck. Live Twins Sprite Runic. Good. Very good. Very strong. But I'm going to be honest. You're not going to play the Live Twin package if you're looking to make a very prominent deck. Because if you're going to be making Runic and Sprite, you might as well just play for hire. The best version. You know? So, we're going to put it down here and for fun. Like, don't get me wrong. If this was a Live Twin Sprite Runic deck, it'd be up here. Very strong. Very powerful. But, Live Twin itself, we'll put it down here for fun. Like, you're making the archetype because you enjoy the archetype. Good. Relatively consistent deck. Loses to Max C. So on and so forth. Yada, yada, yada. Luna Lights. I don't really know much about the deck. So again, this is going to kind of just go down here in the same instance as Spiral and Orcus. I do know, however, that it is very strong and insane in the right circumstances. I think this deck kind of really holds well. You can set up the correct board. But again, I just don't know too much about it to really attest to its strength. So I'll put it down here. I don't want to put it down here. I don't want to justify putting it any higher. I really don't know. Which you guys can let me know. We'll leave these out here. I would love to hear what you guys think about these decks, and I will adjust the list accordingly. So let me know what you guys think of these 3 decks. And then Pearly. Now, if I were to rank the decks, I just realized Dragon Link isn't here, so we'll talk about Dragon Link in a second. If I were to rank the decks up here for the best decks, I think it would be this. With this behind Dragon Link. You know, I think that Pearly is a very, very, very powerful deck. But it is one of these decks where it's like, if they have at least 1 or 2 things of interruption, depending on your hand, you're not going to get to anywhere near as optimal as a board as you would like, and your opponent can easily play through the minuscule amount of Noir. Like, at minimum, you want 5 on Noir. But, like, the minute that you force your opponent to get Noir under 5 is where you could really just take advantage of this deck. Pearly takes brain power. And I know that's actually crazy for me to say, considering the fact that you just play quick play, discard card, summon cat, search card. But, like, you actually need to know what you're doing with the deck in order to efficiently make these monsters and play through the potential of what your opponent can do. And even then, that might not be enough, because there's not really too much you could do to play around that, you know? Like, if they stop 1 to 2 of your special summons, or 1 to 2 of your quick play spells, you're kind of up shit's creek without a paddle. Pearly is up here for what it can do if it can get through the interruptions and still make the board that it needs to. But truth be told, like, if Noir wasn't as cracked of a card as it is, I would be putting Pearly here. but Noir is just that powerful. Noir is just that powerful of a card. And this deck has access to just drawing so many cards. It's basically Runic V2. You know, that's pretty much what Pearly is. It's Runic V2. So if Noir wasn't as strong as it was, it'd be down here. But Noir is just such a cracked card. We have to have it up. And I just noticed the Dragon Link isn't on here. I'm not going to search for the image. Just Dragon Link is above Pearly. Dragon Link is still one of the better decks in the game. It loses to Cash. I wouldn't say it loses to Cash, but Cash kind of makes Dragon Link pretty hard to play. But you can still play through anything. You can still play through Cash pretty well. Dragon Link is just that deck. You know, it's just that consistent of a deck. It's basically Marin says in Zombies, just on crack. You know, because like they have answers for everything. They can still play the game. Like you could stop them so many times, and they're still just kicking. You know, and they're still going to make Boral Sword Dragon. They're still gonna kick your face in. It's just how Dragon Link is. But that'll do it for my tier list. So I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'm definitely planning on continuing to update this tier list as time goes on. There will be a lot of changes as we continue forward, and we even have a new selection pack coming out in 2 days that very well could affect this entire thing. So if you guys are here for the Yu-Gi-Oh content, you do. And I appreciate you guys being here for my return to YouTube. I'll talk about this more in the channel update. I will attempt to be as consistent as I can. I will not be on that same 3-day schedule as I used to be, but I will definitely still be around so I can upload things like that and still be around here. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, see you next time. See ya.